The NVIDIA 4070 Super was released today into the wild. It's the first one of the three super cards coming out. Did it sell out? I have some conflicting, analysis of this. On one hand, it looks like some of them did sell out. On the other hand, it seems like some places are slowly selling them. They're definitely moving though. So there are people that really did want to buy these. I even checked on Reddit to see what people were talking about, and a lot of people did try to get one of these. After all, $599 for a 4070 Super. That doesn't sound too bad if you get it at that MSRP. Most of them seem to be pretty close to MSRP. So what about selling out? First, let's talk about the Founders Edition. This is the one sold directly by NVIDIA, and at least in the US, the only other place you can buy it is from Best Buy. So as soon as it was 9 in the morning, that's usually Eastern time in the US, like New York time, when they actually release these GPUs for sale. I tried to get the 4070 Super Founders Edition from Best Buy. So at first it said add to cart, and it did show up, but as soon as I would do that, it would say the GPU was out of stock, pretty much only after a few minutes after 9 a.m. Kind of brought me back to a few years ago where it was really impossible to get a GPU. The last few launches haven't been nearly as bad. The last one that I remember being very tough to get was an RTX 4090. The only place you could really get one on launch was maybe at Micro Center in the US or some things like that, and maybe if you ordered really quickly when it came online, but that still wasn't nearly as bad as the 3090 and the 3080. Those were nearly impossible to get a few years ago because of everything that was going on. And now let's hear a word from our sponsor, VIP-CDKdeals.com, a Windows 10 Pro CD key. Add to cart, you put in code CC20. This will also work on Windows 11. You want to go into your settings in Windows, change and adjust your CD key, click activate, and now let's go back to the video. So back to the 4070 Super. I obviously wanted to get the Founders Edition, and I think that's one of the nicest ones you can get. It looks really cool in its new design. So I couldn't get it at Best Buy. It seemed to sell out within maybe the first 5 minutes. I was even there a little earlier, and I was not able to get one. So then I knew the only other place that would be selling it would be NVIDIA. I tried my hand at it. I went to the NVIDIA website, and it gave me a little notification saying that I was in the queue. I was number 400 something to get that particular GPU, or at least in line, and it seemed like I had to wait maybe 15 to 20 minutes. So then the time kind of kept going. My number kept going down, and eventually from the NVIDIA website, I was able to get one. This was within the first 10 to 20 minutes of the GPU being released in the US. And then I go back on Best Buy and I check, and of course the Founders Edition is indeed sold out. And then even when I checked this afternoon, it seemed like all the other models said coming soon and notify me. There were no other super models in particular for the 4070 in stock at Best Buy. So then obviously I wanted to see what was going on in the market in general. Amazon didn't have any, so I checked on Newegg, and Newegg, even as a few hours after the release, they do seem to have various models in stock. Not the Founders Edition, but there are various models from Asus and Gigabyte and MSI that they definitely do have in stock, so you can get those, and there are a number of them that are still $599. I think NVIDIA really tried to keep the MSRP, especially of the AIB third-party models, as close as possible to that $599 price point. I even checked on Micro Center, where usually they have a decent amount of these GPUs, and while they didn't have a tremendous selection of these different models, I kind of screen grabbed early on the stock that they had, and this was maybe after an hour or so of opening, so they probably sold some right early on when they still had it. And then I did another screen grab a few hours later, and it seemed like in between those, if their inventory online is accurate, maybe they sold 16 4070 Supers, and then maybe another, I don't know, a bunch right in the morning, maybe another 16 to 20, 30. So not a huge launch. I remember the 4090, the first day, my local Micro Center sold 150 of the 4090s. And if you think that GPU was 3 times the price almost of a 4070 Super, certainly some pretty impressive numbers. Obviously, the 4090 stands on its own still as the best GPU you can get, obviously for a very expensive price. But the 4070 Super certainly is moving. So most models seem to sell 4 to 5 different ones of the ones that I saw on Micro Center. all in all, obviously it's not sold out. You can still get a 4070 Super. It's the one that NVIDIA is going to produce the most of for this launch, according to what we've heard. But the numbers aren't actually like super large of inventory. Like even at Micro Center, it seems to be a little less than they usually have. And it even looked like it was less than like the 4090 launch, at least at my particular store. So that means that maybe the 4070 Ti Super and the 4080 Super, those actually may be a little bit challenging to get. I wouldn't be surprised if the 4080 Super and the 4070 Ti Super actually sold out for good. I know the Founders Edition 4080 Super is probably going to sell out really fast. If the 4070 Super sold out, you can only imagine the 4080 Super at $999 will sell out pretty fast as well. It's a very expensive GPU, but NVIDIA did drop the price. I know people have been saying in the comments that it's still too expensive. It should be $699 or $799. And while I agree with you on one part, it's, what are you going to do? Like NVIDIA upped the price and they control it. And at least they went down cheaper. I mean, that's something. I don't think they're going to go down to $699 like ever. I think that's way too optimistic unless we get a massive collapse of the market or something like that, which I don't really think is going to happen. So $999 is where it sits for now. And considering you can't really even get a 4090 without paying, twice as much basically, because the 4090s, even in the US, went up a lot in price, sometimes $200 to $300 per model, if you can even find it. They've been very sparse and very difficult to find. So that 4080 Super more or less sits at the top of like the realistic chain for most people wanting a high-end GPU. So I think that one and the 4070 Super, or 4070 Ti Super rather, very confusing name, I think those two are going to be more difficult to get. From what we heard about potential inventory, it sounds like those two are going to be like less available than the 4070 Super. It makes sense. NVIDIA would produce more of the 4070 Super. It's a cheaper price, probably going to move a lot more units, but 4080 Super, I think if you really want one, you better keep your eye on, especially if you want the Founders Edition, you better keep an eye on, Best Buy and the NVIDIA website, because those, I think they're going to be difficult to get. And who knows, we may even see like scalpers come back because of the 4080 Super. It happened with the 4090 for a very long time. We thought we were sort of over that period of resellers and scalpers, but for the 4090, they were out for the first few months selling these models for like hundreds of dollars over their retail price. So we're going to see what happens with the 4080 Super. You would think it wouldn't happen now nearly as bad because the GPU market has certainly been a little bit slower during the last few years, but certainly you never know. And I guess there is a lot of competition for these $1,000 GPUs now on the market, with AMD 7900 XTX probably going down in price as we speak, the 7900 XT, even NVIDIA's own 4080, the original one, is going to start to come way under $1,000. There are going to be a lot of really good GPUs and options for people who don't want to spend nearly $1,000 and maybe get a nice discount. But for the people that have been waiting for like a GPU like the 4080 Super, I think if the 4070 Super launch is any indication, with the Founders Edition selling out, and then certainly not sold out for the other models, but they're definitely moving and it's a lot higher numbers in terms of what's available, I think the 4080 Super and the 4070 Ti Super may surprise us if they're not really heavily available. I think people are going to snap them up, and it may be another 4090 situation with some of these GPUs. But we're going to have to wait, see what happens. Let me know what you think down below. Do you think those are going to sell out, the upper two of the Super lineup? Or is it going to be like the 4070 with them still available? And remember, NVIDIA could always just refill the stock a few weeks later, but the 4090 took a long time to actually be consistently in stock, even months. Maybe it was like a year after almost before we really saw it be a little more consistent. So we're going to see what's going to happen. Remember to subscribe, smash that like button, and I'll see you guys on the next video.